Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. Happy to get back involved with you guys today as we look forward to the Giants' first Falcons game. Anthony and I will be there, so if you are tailgating, if you're hanging out before the game, hit me a DM on Twitter. We're more than happy to come hang out, say what's up, have a couple beers, and enjoy talking about this team as we get ready for Eli Manning's jersey retirement, which is really, really exciting. So hopefully they can win that game and start off, hopefully this first 3 games with a win. We could really use one at this point in time. Of course, Dallas came in with a win yesterday. The Eagles managed this crisp loss to the 49ers, which was nice. But we need a win. We need to start getting on the right track here. We have some big games coming up. The Giants really need to get some momentum going before we head into those. But today we want to talk about a couple different things, starting with why is Kadarius Toney not playing? Why is he not getting targets in the passing game? Why is he not returning punts? Really, why is he not doing anything? He's really been sitting on the sideline. He only has 19 total snaps through 2 games, which is really, really disappointing considering what we saw him do at Florida. And we also want to talk about this defense. What's going on with the pass rush? The secondary's had a couple lapses in decision-making. We want to talk about this unit as a whole and really what is going on there, what schematically is happening. Anthony, before we dive into all this good stuff, how is your weekend going, my friend?
Went well, pretty good. Had a nice, relaxing Sunday, but now I'm ready to go ahead and look forward to next week. Let's look forward to this next Sunday. Obviously, got a plane to catch on Saturday. I'll be up in New York hanging out with Alex, and we will see you guys hopefully in parking lots of MetLife Stadium next Sunday. Super excited to watch Eli get his jersey retired, but right now, focus is on the current New York Giants, not the legends like Eli Manning. So if we're focusing on the current New York Giants, one of the main New York Giants I want to focus on is Kadarius Toney, the 20th overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, who has seen 0 playing time, basically. I mean, he's been on the field for a few snaps here and there, but he hasn't done anything. The Giants are just not really incorporating him into their offensive game plan. It's confusing. They're misusing him clearly because they're not even using him. So I guess it's going to be good for us to talk about how they should be using him and then why misusing him can be so costly to the team and to the offensive success, especially down the line of this season as we try and string together some W's at some point and hopefully be a competitive team that we all hoped we would be, right? So then, of course, you look over to the defensive side of the ball. The pass rush has been a problem. The coverage has been a problem. Everything's been a problem on that side. So we do have a whole lot to discuss leading into this Week 3 matchup with the Falcons on Sunday.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney, his lack of usage really is more or less disappointing because the Giants, of course, scored 7 meaningful points in Week 1 against Denver and then Week 2 against Washington, and only got worse, Anthony. When you're looking at this Week 2 matchup, why do you think he didn't get involved? And Week 1 as well, don't you think he should be punt returning over Jabril Peppers at the very least?
Yeah, I definitely do, especially because one of the things with Jabril Peppers is having him play the punt returner role. He is such an important piece of our defense, and when he's playing that punt returner role, there is a risk of injury. He did have that play where he kind of like trucked through somebody. He ran someone over, caught a total body as a punt returner, but that in itself, him trying to truck somebody and run through somebody, is a little bit dangerous. He could get hurt. Punt returns are definitely one of the more dangerous moments in any football game, punt and kick returns. So going forward, I would really just like to see Kadarius Toney take that role over, not only to protect Jabril Peppers, but just because he is such a dynamic playmaker out in space. He is impossible to tackle. He forced a missed tackle on 35% of his touches in college. He was by far the best run after the catch receiver in the 2021 NFL draft class. So I want to see him get involved in that way. Just give him opportunities to make some plays because they haven't given him any opportunities yet. They put him on some crappy end around right towards Von Miller. That's not a good opportunity to make a play. You're asking for him to fail at that point. You're setting him up for failure. But if you give him some punt return opportunities, he gets the ball, he gets in space, starts to run downfield, has a couple guys, makes a miss, and he might be able to gain some yardage, make a play, spark plug the offense before they get on the field, that kind of thing. So, yeah, absolutely. I want to see him start to return some punts, maybe even some kickoffs. CJ Board's a pretty good kick returner, though, so I don't know if he's going to take any of those snaps away. But I definitely think that he should be taking the punts, and hopefully that leads into him getting some more involvement with the offense.
Yeah, essentially, when I'm looking at Kadarius Toney, I look at a player that immediately has gadget usage, right? He's more than just a gadget player. He is a guy that's a solid route runner. He is able to curate a lot of missed tackles. He was a leading receiver in the college level with a 30% missed tackle rate. And the Giants just simply aren't using him. Last year with Florida, he did tally 1,145 yards from scrimmage and 11 touchdowns. He is a playmaker. And the biggest concern to me is when you're drafting a guy 20th overall, they need to have an immediate impact. The Giants could have said, you know what, let's not go with Toney. Let's go with an offensive lineman, because clearly that's the biggest issue here. Receivers, that's a whole other story. The receivers for the Giants so far through 2 weeks are ranking among the worst in the league in yards for separation, which is a major concern because that was a similar issue they had last year. That is not on Daniel Jones. That is not on the offensive line. That is on the receivers, and they haven't used Kadarius Toney, and he's really good at creating yards of separation, really good in that slot area. Now, Anthony, when I'm looking at Kadarius Toney and figuring out how to use him on offense, you can't only use him on gadget style things like jet sweeps and end arounds because they're predictable when he's on the field. If they're going to use him in that way, every time he's on the field, the team is going to be looking for him to touch the ball. They need to actually target him in the passing game, get him on some whip routes, get him on some drags, attack the seams with him, maybe spray fade him outside. There's a lot of different things they can do to get the ball in his hands and just get him comfortable and adapted to the NFL. And that's what a lot of good teams do with their first round picks. Get them some touches, allow them to take some hits, learn the speed and physicality of this game because it's different than the college level. You need to really adapt to it. And I don't think just not targeting him, I think just having him on the field isn't enough for him to really make an impact long term. Obviously, punt returning is a major way for him to get involved. I think Jabril Peppers is a bona fide starter. You don't want to risk injuring him at this point in the season. If you're not going to use Kadarius Toney, you might as well have him kick return. So there's a couple of reasons why I think Kadarius Toney isn't playing. And the first one, he's still dealing with COVID issues, and then Joe Judge doesn't trust him to really have that stamina to last an entire game. But that's kind of irrelevant, like to him getting targeted. If he's on the field for 19 snaps, what's the hurt of giving him the ball a couple times? Targeting him on some hot reads and whatnot. So, I think that's not really a valuable point to make. I don't really think it's a justification anymore, because if they're going to have him on the field, what's the difference in him getting a reception or not getting a reception? He's still running the route. He's still doing whatever he needs to do. The other thing is maybe he just doesn't know the playbook that well. That's another thing that might be a concern to me. It's possible that Joe Judge just isn't happy with where he is in knowing the playbook and actually understanding what he's supposed to be doing on the field at any given moment. That might be why he's not playing. I know he's been expressing frustration. He said he's like, the media is a bunch of bums, basically, and I tend to agree with him. A lot of our media members have had their moments. A lot of them are great, but some of them are not so great. But he took a shot at the media, and of course they're going to be upset about that because you're really not supposed to do that as a player, no matter what they're saying about you. He's a guy that clearly is a little bit outspoken, and that does rub people the wrong way, especially in New York. They will turn everything against you. The media will attack a player if the media is attacked. And we've seen that with OBJ in the past. We know what happens when players start to speak out like that. So hopefully he can just stay kind of quiet in the background and do whatever needs to be done. Anthony, do you think that it's possible that he simply just doesn't know the playbook that well, and that's why they're really getting him eased in very slowly because they don't? Maybe it's a mixture of him not knowing the playbook and the Giants just not knowing how to use him properly yet. Because Jason Garrett, who really knows if he knows how to use a player like this? He's a gadget style player. You can do a lot of stuff with him, but you have to get creative. And I think that maybe the Giants are trying to get their experienced guys like Golladay and Sterling Shepard and Saquon up to 100% right now. And really getting them in the flow before they apply Kadarius Toney, which then will give them another element to work off of. But maybe they just need to build some chemistry and have Daniel Jones get the reps with these guys first before Kadarius Toney is put into the mix. It's a reasonable thing to talk about, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on here.
I'm not either, and I don't think anyone really is. The Giants have been really tight-lipped about it. They haven't given us any information on Kadarius Toney. We don't know why he's not playing that much. Maybe it's because he doesn't know the playbook. I think that's definitely a valid speculation, definitely a valid theory to make it, Alex. But I'm also still standing by my theory that there's probably something with an injury. The Giants said that he did pick up some injury during camp, and they never gave us any details on it. They didn't say if it was a leg injury, upper body, lower body. They gave zero specifications. They just said he's dealing with something. He has some sort of mystery injury. I still don't know what that injury was, how serious it was, how serious it is, maybe, because he's still not playing much. maybe that thing is still lingering around. Maybe it is the COVID, like you mentioned, Alex. He did have COVID, a little bout with COVID. From what I understood, he was vaccinated and didn't have that severe of symptoms, but they're still ramping him up because even those who are symptomless still need to be ramped up because taking the weeks off or whatever. And plus, it also does affect your body even if you are asymptomatic. So I don't know what exactly is going on with Kadarius Toney. I just really hope they get it fixed ASAP and they can get him, into the lineup because he is a dynamic player that we invested a very valuable asset into. This kid will make a huge impact on the offense if we allow him to. So that's really all it is. Is he ready? I don't know. But if he is, then the Giants need to get ready as well. They need to get him involved with this game plan because to me, by all accounts, he looks ready. He's practicing, he's playing, he's suiting up in these games. He took the handoff around the left end against the first game against the Broncos, of course, my bad. And then he got tackled. He didn't really look all that explosive. So that's why I'm still wondering if this injury is laying around, if it is maybe an ankle injury or something like that, that's just keeping him from being the explosive player that we saw at the University of Florida. So going forward, though, if we're going to talk about his usage, I do want to see them use him in more of a receiver role rather than just a gadget player role where they just give him these handoffs and these screens. Like, he can run routes. Like, if you watch his film, he runs a nasty whip route. He's good enough to run like a sluggo and a slant route at least. Like, you can get him involved in many ways in this offensive game plan. The Giants definitely have the ability to get him out in space through the use of the receiving game. They don't have to just use him in these little trick plays and gadget plays. So, Alex, you've said this a lot. You don't think that Jason Garrett knows how to use a player like Kadarius Toney. I'm starting to think you might be right because he is just not being used properly at all, and or at least he wasn't in week 1, and then in week 2 he wasn't even used at all. Not used improperly, just wasn't even used. So I don't really know what the problem is. Like you said, Alex, we can speculate all we want. It's what we're doing basically, but if you really want to get down to it, the Giants need to fix this. This is an issue. This is a valuable asset invested in an explosive player who is not making an impact. There's multiple players on this team that aren't making the impact that they're supposed to with what we've invested in them. But Kadarius Toney, there's so much hype around him. There's so much of a dynamic boom ability with him. They really got to start making him a focal point because this offense scored 29 points basically without him last week. Imagine with him making an impact, that number could possibly top 30, maybe even top 40 on a good day. If we really get going and we really start to get creative and use these players properly, this offense can be as explosive as any other offense in the league.
Yeah, one way I would love to see the Giants use Kadarius Toney is on rub routes, with Sterling Shepard and Kenny Golladay. These are two guys that are really good route runners. I honestly, you see Darius Slayton, or rather, I'm sorry, Kenny Golladay move into the slot occasionally. He has a couple of reps out of the slot now and then. I'd love to see them, line Kadarius Toney maybe in the Z right behind him, and then use some rub routes. So, really get him into space. You can get the ball to players with good route concepts. That's the thing with Jason Garrett. They try to force balls to specific players, and there's ways to scheme them open. You can scheme players up. And how do you think the Chiefs get the ball to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce? Travis Kelce is an absolute tank, and he should be locked down every play, but scheming him open is the way to get the ball to your best players. And the Giants simply, have troubles with that at times. And I think that the chemistry is building, the health is getting better overall, and I think Kadarius Toney eventually will make an impact. He will see more snaps and more targets, and I think they should pull some targets away from Darius Slayton, if we're being honest. I think Darius Slayton, between you and I, and everyone listening, between you and I think that Darius Slayton's best usage is him being forgotten about, right? Because when the defense forgets about him, that's when he strikes. That's when he does the best work. He is not a guy you rely on as an every down receiver. He's the type of guy that you don't throw to for 20, 30 plays, and then you have a 9 route down the sideline because the defense completely forgets about him. The safety's starting to focus on Kenny Golladay, or is trying to focus on Evan Ingram up the seam, or Caden Smith, starting to focus on Saquon Barkley. Darius Slayton is the best when the defense forgets he's actually a good deep threat. And then you boom 9 route down the sideline, and you hope the guy doesn't freaking drop it. That's basically his best usage, because otherwise, Darius Slayton has dropped too many passes for me to rely on him as a good route runner that I can trust with those hands. But he's a good deep ball threat. We've seen him succeed. He had one of the touchdowns this past week. The drop ball, that's a major concern. The Giants aren't going to alleviate him. They're not going to get rid of him from the scheme by any means. So they just have to really use him in the right ways. And I think they have been actually using Darius Slayton in the right ways by targeting him downfield, getting him open. He just dropped the ball. which is unacceptable for a guy who is a starting level wide receiver that is literally not within 20 yards of another defender. That's a guy that needs to catch it. But let's head over a quick little sponsor shout out. Want to get advantage over your sportsbook? You need to download BetQL, the only app you need to make smart bets today. Their best bet computer model scans over 350,000 unique bets per year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and gives you the reasoning behind why you should place the bet. Their model covers everything from spreads, over and unders, and player prop bets. Don't want to use the model and prefer to do the research yourself? BetQL has all the necessary tools for your research needs. There is sharp data so you can see what the pros are backing, line movement so you can jump on betting opportunities in real time, and team summaries highlighting previous success against the spread and over/under. They're doing phenomenal work with the football season. They've done unbelievably well, especially in week one. BetQL's best bet algorithm went 13-2 on 5-star bets for week one NFL games between Thursday and Sunday. Don't miss out on your chances to beat your sportsbook by using all that BetQL can offer. And also make sure to take advantage of the Fireside discounted payment to check out for 25% off. And the BetMGM offer, you get a free year of BetQL. Just insane value there. As I've been saying to you guys, I use it every day. It's really, really great service, and I recommend it simply because I trust the product and I actually believe in it. So that's really good there from them, Anthony. But I do want to dive into the pass rush and the secondary a little bit, talk about their weaknesses and strengths and, what really is happening, because we just gave up 30 points to Taylor Heinicke, and that should never, ever, ever happen in the history of sports. And I want to talk about the pass rush first, because we've seen Azeez Ojulari. He has 2 sacks, Lorenzo Carter getting some pressures here and there. What is going on, though? Why aren't they getting enough pressure? I want to put a little bit of blame on Leonard Williams, who we just gave the bag to, and he simply has not produced enough, right? He hasn't shown enough. Maybe he's missing Dalvin Tomlinson a lot, who soaked up a lot of double teams last year. I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but what are you seeing? And the Giants just really are struggling to get that pass rush going so far.
Yeah, I think that there's a top to bottom issue on defense. The coverage is bad. The pass rush is bad. I think that those play hand in hand, right? So I think that when you talk about the coverage being so poor, a lot of that has to do with how poor the pass rush is, because the Giants are playing this cover 2 deep drop zone. They're playing these really soft zones. Like James Bradbury's dropping back 15 yards off the line of scrimmage playing a flat zone. That's not playing a flat zone at this point, right? Like, they're basically playing cover 4, but they're really trying to play cover 2. They're just dropping back so far. And when you're doing that, you're giving the offense all the time in the world to find the guy, because there is no pass rush, right? So when you just drop back, they can take everything underneath because it's all in front of them, because there's no one preventing them from doing that. There's no pass rush getting home, hitting the quarterback, and making him miss those easy reads. So all those easy reads he's going to find and he's going to connect on. And that's basically what we're seeing so far. But going forward, if you look at these players that we have on our defensive line, our edge rushers, Azeez Ojulari, I think that he's been decent. I don't think he's been great. He had a sack. Well, he's got 2 sacks, but one of them was a coverage sack. One of them Taylor Heinicke just ran into. So he's not even being that productive as a pass rusher. Lorenzo Carter, I think, has struggled. He really hasn't impressed us the way that we hoped he would. He looked so good in the preseason. What happened? He's like really just not showing up. And then from the interior, we have a serious problem with Leonard Williams right now, because we are paying him, 26, right? $26 million a year for like no production at all, like whatsoever. He's just non-existent. I honestly, at certain points in those games that we watched, I forgot that he was even on the team. That's how bad it was. Like, he is just a ghost right now. He needs to get productive. He needs to start doing something, get active as a pass rusher. Dexter Lawrence too needs to start stepping it up as a pass rusher. All around, though, when you look at this defense compared to last year's defense, last year it was pretty much the same personnel. If anything, the personnel got a little bit better this year. But last year, we had basically the same personnel, but just did not accomplish, or we did accomplish a lot more than we are this year. So last year, I think the scheme generated plenty of pressure. As I was mentioning the other day, Alex, we saw a lot of moments where Jabril Peppers was getting pressures last year, even sacks last year, Logan Ryan as well. I feel like we're not seeing as many of these creative blitz packages this year. I feel like we're not seeing Jabril Peppers come around the edge and hit Taylor Heinicke like he should, right? We should see some more creative blitz packages, some more blitzes from the inside linebacker position. Where is Carter Coughlin? He hasn't even played. I think he's played a total of 6 snaps through 2 weeks. This is a guy that was phenomenal in the preseason, like so good. Moves over to the interior or the inside linebacker position and looks great, but also has the ability to rush the passer since he was originally an edge rusher. So I think if you're talking about not getting enough productivity from your pass rushers right now, I do believe that putting Carter Coughlin in the lineup would be a huge benefit because he has the ability to rush from the interior, being a former edge rusher turned inside linebacker. So I'm hoping that the Giants start to get him involved. And really, top to bottom, Patrick Graham needs to do better. Like, he just has to be better. The defense is not performing well, and Patrick Graham's scheme is not what it was last year. The players are not in the right position like they were last year. It needs to be fixed as soon as possible, and I think that he needs to get a lot more creative in terms of generating pass or pressure through the scheme, through a creative pass rush scheme. So, I hope that Leonard Williams, though, that's my number one thing here. But out of all of these players, Lorenzo Carter being kind of mediocre, that's not that surprising. 𝐒𝐨 𝐁𝐿 getting used to the NFL game, not surprising. That's fine. But Leonard Williams just being an MIA, that needs to get fixed as soon as possible.
Right. I actually have been, mildly impressed with Azeez Ojulari thus far. Of course he's going to have his ups and downs. He's had some tough games so far. It's only 2 games, but kind of tough in the tackling department at times. His run defense has been spotty. But he has curated 3 hurries, 1 quarterback hit, and 2 sacks. He's been getting after the quarterback. I wouldn't say well, but he's doing it enough to make an impact. And I think that he had that 1 sack in the beginning of the Washington game and kind of like more or less disappeared. He had 2 hurries, but that was really it. After that, and I think for the most part, he needs to really start to be a little bit more consistent. But again, he's a first year player. He's 21 years old. He's still getting his ground underneath of him. Still building a foundation of good pass rush moves, and he's going to get better over time. And the Giants want to give him, but this is where I get confused, right? They want to give Azeez Ojulari as many snaps as possible, as many reps to get him underway, to get him to adapt to the NFL level. But they're not doing that with Kadarius Toney on the other side of the ball. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. The logic is a little bit flawed. Like, they could be using 𝐿𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸, right? They could be using a more established veteran there, or a Carter Coughlin. They could be doing other things, but instead they're force-feeding Azeez Ojulari reps right now, and he has been struggling for the most part. So I think that it's interesting to see that they're doing that on defense, but not on offense. Now, I do want to give you some idea of how this scheme is kind of looking this year, right? So this year, cover one, there's been an uptick from 20% this season compared to 12% last season. So we've seen an 8% uptick in cover one usage for the Giants defense, which is very much in line with what Patrick Graham likes to do. In 2019, when he was with Miami, they played cover one 50% of the time. So it's clear that he's trying to increase that, but there is a kind of a holdback because maybe the personnel is more refined to a zone coverage scheme, but I don't really think so. I think that they have the players, they have the Bradberries and the Dory Jacksons that are good in man coverage. They just haven't been playing well. And I think, for the most part, their cover 2 man has actually dipped from 8% last year to 3% this year. So they've remained mostly a zone heavy scheme, right? They've been mostly zone coverage, but the thing is, it doesn't seem like it's still meshing well. And there has been some inconsistencies in a couple categories. Xavier McKinney, he bit down on that play against Denver, against the run that opened up KJ Hamler for a wide open almost touchdown. He dropped it. But then you have Tay Crowder, who got beat by KJ McKissick, or I think his last name is McKissick. I forget his first name, but McKissick, running back out of the flats, he runs a wheel route off the sideline, and Tay Crowder gets absolutely burned. That's where the Giants have a weakness, that linebacker 2 spot, and they expose that really, really nicely. And then they got another mismatch on a Dory Jackson on a tight end and Ricky Seals-Jones in the end zone, who jumped up and just had so much more height over a Dory Jackson. He just boxed him out and basketball slammed him. So it was really, unfortunate to see the Giants getting beat with so many mismatches here. And I think that's really what teams are doing to the Giants. They're seeing the weaknesses and they're attacking them properly, which is what the Giants should be doing to other teams, mind you, which they did do against Washington. But opposing offenses are looking at Xavier McKinney. Let's use that inexperience to our advantage. Let's make him bite on the play action. Let's attack Tay Crowder with the wheel routes against the running backs. He can't keep up with McKissick. Let's attack Adoree Jackson with a taller receiver, that more physical receiver, and Ricky Seals-Jones, who's actually a tight end. Now, that's kind of where the Giants are losing here in those mismatches, and that's where we've seen them get beat over and over again, Anthony. When you're looking at this, and also Azeez Ojulari in the run game, they're running to the right side a lot because he's not as good at sealing the edge as Lorenzo Carter. We're seeing this, but also James Bradberry getting beat up by Terry McLaurin. Even their better players are having issues here. So, Anthony, do you think it's just going to take time? Do you think it's a scheme-related thing, or do you think that the secondary just has a couple of pieces there that are weak still? Like, we just can't trust McKinney just yet. Tay Crowder, not a good coverage linebacker. I really think that I would be using Jabril Peppers more so in that money back role over Tay Crowder, which I would prefer 100% of the time. I know he struggled against tight ends in week 1 against Noah Fant in Denver, but for the most part, I'd rather see Jabril Peppers out there than Tate Crowder on those third down plays specifically.
Yeah, I would too. And if you're asking me to try and pinpoint what the one main problem is for this defense, I kind of can't, because I just think that it's a combination of a bunch of things. As you mentioned, some players seem like they might have regressed. Guys like James Bradbury just not playing up to the level that we're used to seeing him play. Guys like Leonard Williams not used to seeing him play at this level. You've seen him play a lot better in the past. And then the scheme. You ask, is it the scheme? I think that might be the number one problem. I don't think the scheme is complementing the players that well right now, but there's also inexperience out there, as you mentioned. Xavier McKinney, young. This is basically his rookie season. He only played in like 3 to 4 meaningful games last year. Azeez Ojulari's been a huge part of this defense. He's playing a lot, but he's also not playing that well because he's a young rookie that's just not established in this league and doesn't really know how to defend against the run. Clearly, like that's a thing. We've also got Tate Crowder, as you mentioned. He's only in his second year, another young guy who's still learning how to play coverage defense, and there's just a lot of inexperience. It's a young team, and then maybe the older guys who are experienced might have regressed. But I think the number one thing is the scheme is trying to get the most out of players, or that's what every scheme tries to do. It tries to get the most out of its players and benefit the players, put them in positions to succeed. Right now, this scheme is not doing that. Last year, it did. It got young guys like Tate Crowder, seventh round pick, the final pick in the draft. It got so much out of him. He played phenomenally. But this year, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing these players that aren't supposed to be making an impact making an impact. Really, no one's making that big of an impact except James Bradbury when he goes off script and jumps a pass for an interception at the end of the game, which he was kind of playing a coverage that he wasn't even supposed to be playing. So yeah, when you ask me what the biggest problem is, I'm going to say it's the scheme, but ultimately it is a combination of a bunch of factors. There's a lot going on with this defense. There's a lot of problems that I'm seeing, that everybody's seeing right now. And, Daniel Jones played a phenomenal game on Thursday night. He deserved that win. The Giants deserved that win. Jason Garrett even deserved that win. He called a pretty decent game. The offense deserved that win. But the defense, at the end of the day, it was the defense that cost us that game. If you really look at it, they allowed Taylor Heinicke to carve them up, and they allowed Terry McLaurin to just go off against a top five quarterback. At least we thought he was in the NFL. So really, the defense has to turn it around. If we want to win some games, be competitive this year, many of us believe that it's too late already. 0-2 is too deep of a hole to dig out of. We're only one game back in the division technically, so I don't think it's too late to try and claw back. But we're not clawing back unless this defense turns it around, and it's got to do it immediately. Week 3, it needs to turn it around, and the Giants need to start playing better. And that really is going to rely on the defense. We said that about the offense initially. We said, oh, the offense might never turn it around because we thought at the beginning of last year, oh, they'll pick it up, they'll figure it out. They never did. But the defense had it figured out all year. So when we saw the defense struggle in week 1, we're like, they'll pick it up, they'll figure it out. So far, they haven't, but the offense has. And I just hope that it's not a reverse of last year where the offense is good and the defense isn't. We really need to get these two units of the team on the same plane, playing well, playing together, and hopefully getting some wins. Man, I just need the Giants to start winning football games. If they don't, I'm going to go insane. We're all going to go insane. I don't know how long I'll be able to last this season if the Giants don't pick up some wins here. So, again, if the defense can turn it around, though, week 3 is a very winnable matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. And, if they turn it around, we should be looking at a pretty solid victory there. And then hopefully we can try and string together some W's and make this a competitive season that we all hope for it to be.
Yeah, the Falcons are a beatable team. They had a better second half, but Matt Ryan did throw 3 interceptions, and Tampa Bay has such a great defense. They still, they've had their share of struggles early on, but I think the Giants, this is a winnable game for us. We have to walk away with a win. The schedule is tough beyond, but the Saints just lost a pretty bad game to Carolina, so I think that we can not easily, I'm not going to say easily any means. I think that it's also a winnable game against the Saints. There are games here. There are teams that just have a bad week. You never know. The NFL's a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen at any given moment. The Giants could have a crazy game. Kadarius Toney suddenly comes out of the woodwork. Saquon Barkley suddenly breaks off 2 long runs, and both of them are touched. You never know what's going to happen. So, I want to reserve any assumptions for the midway point in the season. But obviously, very disappointing first 2 weeks. I think we have a chance to bounce back. The division is still wide open. We have the Eagles that are 1-1. Dallas is everybody's 1-1, and we are 0-2. The Giants, if you win one game next week, the rest of the NFC loses one game, and we're tied with everybody. That's how it is sometimes. Now we just have to win our division games moving forward. That's going to be the big thing. We have to win those division games. We have to play hard. I want to see the same desire from the Giants that I saw last night with the Chiefs and Baltimore. Those two teams were fighting, man. They were dog fighting. They made risky moves. They played to win. That's what I loved about that decision by John Harbaugh last night, by the way. When he looks at when he looks at Lamar Jackson, he says to him, what do you want to do? Do you want to go for this? And Lamar Jackson's like, yes, I want to win this game now. I want to see the Giants be aggressive, trust their players, make plays, change the momentum. All it takes is that one big time play, that one big time decision, and the entire team is now on a whole another level. You know what I mean? Sometimes that one moment, that one big play that you make is the difference between your season going one way or going the other way. And I think the Giants haven't reached a point yet that they have to make that big decision and then they succeed. And then from then on, they're on a high note. It's a lot of sporting. If you've ever played professional sports or even recreational sports, sports is all about confidence. If you are not confident you're going to catch that ball, you are going to drop that ball. If you are confident you're going to make that throw, you're going to make that throw. If you're confident you're going to make this kick like Graham Golden Boot Gano, you're going to make that freaking kick. So I'm pretty confident that if the Giants can elevate their game, they feel good, they're confident, they're playing well, it's only going to get better and better. I really do believe that, guys. But we need to see it happen. We're tired of seeing losing football. We want to see the Giants win a freaking game. So the Falcons, a great opportunity for us to get off, to a better start, reset this season. I know Joe Judge says he likes to use September as like an extension of preseason, so they have been kind of getting along slowly. Hopefully we see a much better product on the field this upcoming week. But as always, once again, thank you to our sponsor, BetQL, the only app you'll need to beat your sportsbook. Find their information along with the 25% off discount code in the description of this video. And also check out the special BetMGM offer in the description in order to receive a free year of BetQL and other sportsbook sign-up offers and bonuses, my friends. Make sure to subscribe below on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify. And we'll catch you guys on the next New York Giants video.